There's a lot going on in Newcastle right now. We have a rare window to share our story with Australia and the world. It feels like all eyes are on us with the sports teams, the development, and Lonely Planet naming us among the top cities of the world. This is the perfect time to do this project. We shouldn't let this chance go by. The fish are biting.
I think the opportunity is here for us to promote the city in a consistent way, to really take the unusual strengths that people hadn't considered before and to make them the reasons why people want to come and live here and work here.
We want to continue to get the name out there and get the best talent, the best people, the best energy, the best ideas, the best investment, the best tourism that we could possibly get.
Once we establish a brand, it means that we can create something that people can buy into and understand.
The project was funded by the City of Newcastle and the Department of Industry and Investment. I guess for us the biggest challenge is narrowing down all the amazing attributes of this city into a small collection that people can quickly understand and get behind.
A city is such a multi-layered, multi-dimensional, multifaceted thing.
Trying to bring all that into one brand essence and then producing a mark from that is the challenge that was ahead of us. We created 2 workshops where we invited industry leaders.
People from business, from tourism, from the community, and the idea is really to kickstart the process.
We really wanted to find out not only what was the bleeding obvious character of Newcastle, but what we were missing all along, that everyone was going to suddenly say, wow, that's Newcastle?
The process effectively was identifying the traits and characteristics of the Newcastle brand as a group.
There was a series of opportunities to think about and brainstorm about what is Newcastle.
Going into the workshop, I had a fairly open mind about it, but I probably wasn't overly prepared for challenging myself from an external point of view.
Coming to a room like that and trying to bring it together in a way that we can say, well, this is what it is and this is what it isn't. We have once had a background that was a steel city, and now we're starting to build upon that.
The things that came out that were really surprising were the world-class stories.
Story after story started to reveal themselves. There's HMRI doing amazing world-leading research in asthma. There's the CSIRO leading energy innovation, AMP Control, a company that's now in mine sites all over the world with their electrical engineering.
Stories across science, medical, engineering, arts. When you can package that all up, it really is something that would compete with some of the larger cities on a global scale.
Well, what came out of the workshops were 4 characteristics for the city. There was hard-working and genuine and real were the first 2.
If we look back in our history as largely as a blue-collar city, and that that real and that raw sort of edge, it's just really carried through.
Newcastle and Hunter were settled by coal miners and farmers, and then later on steel workers.
I think it's spilled over away from a working class focus, but the essence of it is that we all give it a go.
What really has driven hard working for the city has been the need to respond constantly to the challenges that are thrown to it.
Whether it's natural disasters or the major closure of industry, in fact the reinvention of the city itself.
In many situations there's simply been no choice but to be hard working.
People are generally what you see is what you get.
We've grown as a city that's not particularly self-conscious.
We are egalitarian, we're fairly classless.
And I guess that's what gives it that special character of being down to earth.
You've got your cafe culture, your restaurant culture, you've got fantastic beaches.
It only takes you 10 minutes to get somewhere, so everybody has that little bit more time to be human.
Something that's just natural and organic built into the place.
You can sense it in the surrounds, you can hear it in people's voices, and you can see it in the industrious nature of the local community.
The next 2 were bit more interesting and it had a bit more creative energy for us. And that was the world-class stories and the fact that the city is ever-changing.
Well, we discovered that Newcastle's world class. We could not believe how many stories started stacking up over the top of each other.
We have medical research, industrial infrastructure, but also sport and music. It's really surprising.
HMRI has been able to deliver world-class research outcomes for the children that have asthma, for the parents who've experienced premature birth, for the woman who's had to endure breast cancer, for the men who've had to endure prostate cancer.
Well, AM Control's at the forefront of mining electrical technology systems.
At Gloucester Group, we would consider ourselves certainly benchmark in the world-class field within the automotive retail segment.
We have a deep water harbour on the east coast of Australia, which gives ships sailing the southern trade routes very easy access for maintenance and repair at Four Jacks.
We know as a company that you can operate Newcastle. Rents are cheaper for starters. We have easy access to airports and infrastructure, and Sydney, after all, is only a few hours away.
A city that has had to deal with change ever since it started.
What was interesting around the time of the steelworks pulling out of Newcastle was that most people thought that the lights would go out.
Newcastle and the Hunter have moved from, if you like, a fairly single-dimensional base through to a region of incredible sophistication and diversity.
Innovation is at the forefront of research, but it's at the forefront of this city.
Increased infrastructure, increased investment. You need to look at Honeysuckle and the beautiful development we have along the foreshore.
Newcastle has a much cleaner environment than it once did.
I've been here for 17 years, and in that time I've seen a city stumbling a little bit as an awkward teenager, if you like, not sure of its place in the world, but starting to emerge and starting to blossom.
Well, the brand essence was distilled down to Newcastle being a city of opportunity, which it is, but we thought we could give that more flavour by injecting some surprise and challenging people to rethink their perceptions of Newcastle. If they haven't been here for a while or they've never been here at all, they've probably still got a picture in their head, and this is to actually make them rethink it. And if we do a good job of getting some surprise in there and getting them to rethink it, then I think opportunity is going to be evident. The entire creative department wanted to have a go at this one. They're all proud Novocastrians and really keen to put their hand up.
This gave us an opportunity to shift perceptions about Newcastle.
What we wanted to do is to make sure that those 4 characteristics were quite clear in the design, but also make sure that that surprise and reconsideration of Newcastle was really evident. We started exploring what other cities in the world had done when they went about rebranding themselves.
Amsterdam, the people, is really part of that brand. New York City, it's bigger than a brand. Melbourne is really class, and Belfast is surprise.
Finally, we presented 3 designs back to the stakeholder groups, and they were able to have a look at those designs and determine how closely they reflected the brand characteristics. And ultimately, collectively, we chose a single design to take forward. We're thinking, what if Newcastle was a colour palette? What would the current paradigm be?
The colour palette is a perfect metaphor for what people thought Newcastle was and what it really is.
Yes, there are the dark colours of coal mining and heavy industry, but there's also a range of other colours, like the natural bushland, world-class financial and legal services, there's medical research, there's higher education at the university at TAFE, there's the arts. The design in the end was quite simple. I think it actually borrowed from Newcastle's industrial past and had some hard lines and shapes that formed the typeface, but then introduced a range of fresh, light colours that told the full story about Newcastle today and what it will be tomorrow.
This is an opportunity for us to sing the same message, to start recruiting.
We want to be able to showcase our town and our people in a way that's appropriate for now.
The future of Newcastle is bright.
Newcastle will be able to meet the change that comes from the challenge ahead.
I think as more and more people discover Newcastle, they'll see it as a viable alternative to Sydney.
Very confident we have the assets, the stories, the people, the attitude in place as it is.
I feel we're at the precipice of something big.
It's where it's all happening.
Newcastle is big enough, small enough to be anything it wants to be.